Okay, so 99% of the time, I don't think intros contribute much to the main narrative. I usually watch them once, admire the pretty animation, if there is any, and smash the skip button every other time it comes up. And yes, I know this is a me problem, I need to be more patient generally. But you know what? Cultivating patience takes too long, so whatever. The House of the Dragon intros didn't break my normal mode of operations initially. I watched both of them once and then skipped the rest. Until I remembered a scene that made me stop and obsessively rewatch both intros over and over and over again. Before I had this moment of my brain doing its brain thing, I just thought the intros had pretty unsubtle themes of family and dynasty. This is obviously the king's model of Old Valyria. It's a dumb, past holdover plaything he pays attention to instead of, the actual kingdom. Also, while the king himself is the thing the conflict is centered around, the only action he takes within the conflict is to try to prevent it. And he's very set on this course. He's a blissfully static character. You don't expect any wild card moments from him. His job is basically to just be sad and decay. So you spend more of your focus points on the unpredictable characters and what they care about, and not this model. And then I initially dismissed the Season 2 intro as well. I mean, there's probably some lore there to dig into, but I'm not generally interested in lore. I mean, I get the interest, but it's not for me. I prefer to evaluate the show within the bounds of the show itself. Anyway, it was a bit weird that it was such a visual deviation from the first season's intro. Like, Game of Thrones made little changes in the geography, but did not do this kind of massive, sweeping visual change. But this one scene made me realize that it was absolutely not a deviation, and it is the exact same intro wearing different clothes. And, like the first intro, it is centered around a character who has no willing part in the actual conflict. Helaena. It is so easy to miss, especially when there are other louder wildcard characters like Alicent and Aemond right there. But Helaena is embroidering something just after the king died. And she continues to have embroidery as her hobby in the next season. Like, this is her thing. Just like building city models was King Viserys' thing. And this is the only character who is interested in needlework, so this is her intro. And that kind of brings up the question, why is this intro patterned after a non-central character's hobby? Once I had that question, I started realizing how similar Helaena and Viserys were. Embroidering, like modeling, is decorative, but inherently useless. And both characters feel like inherently decorative, useless characters as well. They're both kind, they're both generally dismissed by all the other characters. Both dragon riders that never actually ride their dragons. Both care about family, but don't exactly enjoy being Targaryens. So why do these nothing characters that don't take willing part in the actual conflict get these intros? And that made me wonder, is there a function these characters do serve despite being the character equivalent of decorative wallpaper to the conflict? Or, in other words, what function would they serve if they were actual autonomous active players in the conflict? Viserys is probably the easier of the two to suss out answers for here. If the characters really valued him, and really valued the things that he cares about, blood and family and destined protection and the just use of power, and the perspective that their internal squabbles are nothing compared to the weight of maintaining the legacy of Old Valyria, this conflict would never have happened in the first place. The people would have accepted Rhaenyra's crowning and right to the throne without protest. The blood of Old Valyria would also have fiercely defended Viserys' decision. There would be no house split, and the House of the Dragon as a show would not exist. That's how powerful the negative space created by not valuing Viserys is. So, what does Helena's negative space do? An easier question to ask is about what she values or stands for as a character. Two things come to mind. First, she is fascinated by smallness. Small important things like bugs, small unimportant people like commoners and their small unimportant feelings, small unimportant people like herself. Second, she has this confusing sense of time.
He sits on a wooden throne. And you'll be dead.
Helaena sees the future, but she often speaks of it as if it's the present. or she speaks of it as if it's the past. I think the combination of these two Helaena qualities is what you see in the intro. We're being shown a tapestry of the grand past events of grand past Targaryens. But then, as the series progresses, more current events start to take shape. The beheading of Jaehaerys, the fall of Sunfire and Meleys. And in episode 8, the final shot of the intro, we see a battle, which hasn't happened yet, but it's already in the tapestry. Helaena herself sums up her worldview and her message to Daemon in his final Harrenhal vision.
It's all a story, and you're but one part in it. You know your part.
If all of the characters viewed themselves as small, as stitches in the tapestry, they would not feel the burden of living up to past greatness. It's the same thread, the same tapestry. There is no difference between past Targaryens like Aegon and present Targaryens like Aegon or other Aegon. We're all just small pieces of the greater story. Their job is not to fundamentally alter the things that are happening. Their job is to play the role that they were given.
It wouldn't change anything.
It would allow them to view some tragedies as inevitable. It's not something to blame yourself for. It is not something that needs to be avenged to restore justice to the universe. It actually allows for a very powerful kind of peace, a very powerful kind of forgiveness, because this view sees everyone else as small things as well, not great and malicious gods who want you to suffer.
I forgive you.
This perspective allows Helaena to face the ugliest truths, the most brutal events and injustices, and see them as what they are: stitches. If King Viserys was the thing that would have held the Targaryens together, Helaena is the only thing that could save them now. But she won't, because she can't. Because it takes way, way too much hallucinogenic weirwood tree screen time for even one character to start to adopt that perspective. Because she knows her death wouldn't change anything. Because she knows her life won't change anything either. Because everything that she is, everything that she values, everything that she stands for is intentionally, brilliantly, heartbreakingly thrown into the 2 minutes of every episode that offers a skip button. In other words, she is meant to be undervalued by everyone, even you, until it is too late. Alright, thanks so much for watching. I'm probably going to have more House of the Dragon content coming soon. But first, I gotta release my final Fallout video on Norm that I've been working on for, 2 months now. Yikes. Hopefully it'll be dropping by the end of next week. So if you're a fan of Fallout, or House of the Dragon, or if you're a warm body that made it to the end of this video, please stick around and subscribe. See you next time.